We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar, The Startup Visa. The letter of support is just the starting point. What comes next? Thank you, everybody, for being here. We already have 80 people in our webinar. We have more than 315 people registered, so we're expecting around 150 or 160 people attending. So we're very excited about this topic that is so hot right now, the startup visa. Let's wait a few minutes for people to join, and then we will be starting and introducing our wonderful guests. In about 4 minutes, we're going to be starting. Let me see who is there. I'm going to say hi. Charmin Alam, hi. Where are people coming from? Where are you located right now? Let us know through our chat. We have AT Law Corporation, Aneteo from Toronto. Calgary, Rebecca Benick, thank you for being here. Wow, so many people. A lot of people from Toronto, Vancouver. Thank you everyone for being here. Let me see who's here. Dina Beshri, Trupti, Bagat. Some people from our journey team as well. Thank you. Sanjay from Blue Planet Immigration. Thank you for being here. Many of our current partners, Samane, Syed Khan. Wow, we already have 100 people connected. That's great. So it's going to be a few minutes until we get started. So for people who are just joining, the topic of our webinar today is going to be the startup visa. The letter of support is just the starting point. So what comes next? So this is a question that we get asked a lot. So we said to ourselves, let's bring in an expert in the matter so that she can answer a lot of those questions. So I'm going to introduce her in just a few minutes so we can get started. Already 103. Who else is here? Ali Asif, welcome. Minaj Karishi. Anu Lal, wonderful, from Just Two Canada. Great partner of ours. I want to take this moment also to thank our marketing team who always does a wonderful job organizing all the logistics behind the webinars. We have a great team. They're always giving it their best, doing the images, doing the posts, sending the emails. Thank you so much to our marketing team. We can't do it without you guys. From India, we have people joining from Dubai. A lot of people from Toronto, Mississauga. Ooh, we have somebody from California. Our friend Mohammed Aran. Hi, Mohammed. Great. So we'll be starting in 1 minute. We already have 113 people. So we're going to be starting in just 1 minute, and then we'll let others join. For everyone to know, you'll receive the recording automatically from the Livestorm platform as soon as we finish the webinar. So you can check back to any information you might have missed, or people who registered and are not attending, they will all also receive the recording at the end. Okay. Okay, great. So let's get started, everyone. So there are a lot of people here who already work with us, but for those who don't, I'm going to introduce myself. My name is Marianela Mansour. I'm the executive director here at Journey Business Plans. For those who don't know us very well, I'm going to talk a little bit about Journey. We specialize doing business plans for immigration programs. among business plans for other purposes such as raising capital, financing, and more. We are a global company consisting of 3 offices, US, Canada, and France. A team of more than 70 people preparing more than 3,000 business plans a year, and the team is growing. Our Canadian office is focused on preparing business plans for federal programs, including the Startup Visa that we're going to talk about today, PNPs, owner-operators, ICT, significant benefit, and more. I want to thank also our account executive, Uros, for joining us. Hey, Uros. Thank you for being here.
Hello, everyone.
And 2 of our marketing team members, Dragana and Rachel. Thank you for being here with us. Let me get myself back on the scene. Here we are. So we bring our guests today to provide our clients and partners valuable information about the Startup Visa in Canada. Since the Startup Visa program is a hot and interesting topic, we have been getting many questions about how to reach out to designated organizations or who to work with to learn more about the process, what happens after the letter of support. And since we are focused only on providing the business plan, we wanted to bring in an expert immigration lawyer to answer those questions for you. Our guest is from IQ Canada, a premier professional services firm offering a suite of business, legal, and companies operations related services to foreign innovators, startups, and growth stage business looking to establish and or expand their operations into Canada under the Startup Visa and the ICT. IQ Canada starts with the process of concept validation for a startup and provides a complete suite of services required to establish a business in Canada. I want to take this chance to give an important disclaimer. As you know, at Journey Business Plans, we do not provide any legal services. We offer business plans, pitch decks, and financial modeling for our clients and partners, and we will be discussing more about those in detail during the webinar. So as I said, many of you already know our work. Some of you may be new to us, and I welcome you all to this webinar. We are very grateful to have you join, and we are very excited to present our guest today. Now, I would like to introduce our guest, Upasana Sharma from IQ Canada in Toronto.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me, Marinella.
Thank you for being here, Upasana. It's a great pleasure to have you. I'm going to introduce Upasana. Upasana is the CEO and the founder of IQ Canada Inc. With expertise in law, angel investing, and business consulting, Upasana has successfully launched several global startup companies in the Canadian market. Her litigation experience with some of the top Canadian law firms, including Learners LLP, has given her an in-depth understanding of the Canadian legal system and regulatory requirements. Upasana's expertise in law and business, combined with her highly accomplished advocacy, negotiations, critical thinking, and problem-solving skills, allow her to proficiently handle all the business and legal aspects of the Startup Visa program. An accomplished Canadian lawyer with an entrepreneurial spirit, Upasana helps startups and international businesses turn their vision of entering Canada into reality. So I welcome you all to this webinar, The Startup Visa, the letter of support is just the starting point. What comes next? Welcome, Upasana.
Thank you so much, Marinella, for such a generous introduction, and I'm really glad to be here. We are at 133 people. It gives us immense pleasure that we know that Startup Visa program is popular, but you all coming here clearly shows us that people want to know what exactly the program is all about, what the process is all about. And what we do today, Team IQ and Team Journey, is to share our experiences after dealing with hundreds of files, what exactly is there in this program and how we can serve our clients, how we can serve applicants the best. So without any further delay, Marinella, I'll take the opportunity to start with my presentation here.
Go ahead, Upasana.
Thank you. I would make it very simple. Usually when we teach anybody history, what we start with before BC and AD. I think so it's a very similar segue I can take to explain the Startup Visa process too. The Startup Visa process could be before the letter of support and after the letter of support. And before I go further, before and after letter of support, I just want to make a disclaimer here. Whatever we are talking here today is not legal advice. I am not sitting here as an immigration lawyer to explain anything. I'm a business consultant who happens to be a lawyer in the past, have active experience, and has understanding of law. So from a business expertise, understanding of the law, we are bringing to you our experiences with Startup Visa. So let's go back. So if we can say that the whole Startup Visa process could be divided into two parts, what happens before letter of support and what happens after letter of support. When we go out to research about Startup Visa right now, what we see is predominantly everybody's talking about, hey, how to get a letter of support. In fact, when we talk to some time with applicants and service providers, we come across the statement, you know what, we get the letter of support, this means we got the PR. I want to make this thing absolutely clear here right now. Letter of support does not guarantee permanent residency under Startup Visa program. It is a qualifier. Let me explain it again. It does not guarantee permanent residency, but without letter of support, you will not qualify to apply for permanent residency under Startup Visa program. It is one of the most important component of qualifying for Startup Visa. So when we are talking about one of the most important component of qualifying for Startup Visa, let's just first start with understanding what qualifies someone for the Startup Visa program. And to get to the qualification, because as we know that we have a lot of immigration consultants here, we just trying to make it clear, we should look at regulation or section 98.01 under division 2 business immigrants, part 6 economic classes of immigration, refugee protection and regulations. I will not be a law professor today and are not going to go more in legal terminologies more than this. Let's just make it very, very simple for everyone to understand. So to qualify for Startup Visa at this point, what we need is first, as we discussed, commitment from a designated entity. And letter of support is what? It is a proof of that commitment which is given to the applicant so that they are qualified to apply for their permanent residency application. Okay. Second is the usual language requirements, CLB level 5. You all know that it could be English or French. Again, it's a startup. Government knows that when you're coming here, the company is not immediately going to generating revenue. So what they're looking at is that the founders have what we call as settlement funds. And the last and the most important one is they are expecting that the applicants coming under this category are the people who would be able to establish themselves in Canada economically with their qualifying business. I'll emphasize again, qualifying business. Now, for qualifying business, we should look at section 98.06 of the reg. So what is a qualifying business? On a usual terminology, when we talk to anybody about Startup Visa, we hear this buzzword, innovation, because that's what everybody thinks distinguishes Startup Visa from PNPs, because regular business can be in PNP, but for a business to come under Startup Visa, it needs to be innovative. It should create jobs for Canadians. It can compete on the global scale and could be incorporated in Canada. But we are missing sometimes the two very important components which are laid very clearly under section 98.6 of the 06 of the reg, and which is that essential part of the business operation should take place in Canada. And the last one, most importantly, please listen to me carefully. Applicant provides active and ongoing management from within Canada. It is this aspect that the essential part of the operation takes place in Canada, and the essential part, they provide an active and ongoing management within Canada, actually takes me to our segue about what happens after letter of support. I'm sure you all are having questions right now. Okay, we talked about qualifiers, but we should touch upon how to qualify these. Definitely, I'm going to come back when I talk about the process part, because that's an important component. You need letter of support. But let's just think about why today we are all here, hundreds of us, to talk about what happens after letter of support. And that emanates from what is the definition of a qualifying business. Okay, so let's just take a step here on that direction. On a simple way, if you have to understand, once your client gets a letter of support or an applicant gets a letter of support, their PR application would be submitted and their work permit application to be submitted on a basic level. The application would be reviewed by the visa officer at this time. So that is primarily what is happening in the post letter of support stage, or the second phase. Now, very important to understand, and you all who are practicing immigration consultants and lawyers here, you know it very well, but I'm just re-emphasizing it here for you. that under the immigration regulation, it provides visa officers with broad powers when they have to make decision on a permanent residence application filed under startup visa, that they can review both the intent and bona fide of both the designated organization as well as the startup visa applicant or group of applicants. Let me decipher it better for you. So when it comes to an applicant, what we should expect when we are looking at the applicant, we should expect that the visa officer reviewing the application will very heavily scrutinize the applicant's commitment and intention to carry out that startup business in Canada. And that is what it takes, that it becomes important that post in the letter of support phase, if the visa officer is going to look at your intention and commitment, it is important that we talk about how one is going to launch and grow their startup business in Canada, how they're going to provide an active and ongoing management. And this is something we are talking less when we talk about startup visa nowadays. Second aspect is when the visa officer is scrutinizing the designated entity, they are going to examine what were the procedures, what were the documents they took into consideration that allowed them to think this is the right company under the startup visa. We should be submitting commitment certificate. They would like to see that the designated entity followed the industry standard. They followed the current ethics or the working environment in the startup ecosystem. They did sufficient due diligence before they gave the letter of support. And if any of these grounds, while reviewing the application, they are not satisfied, they're going to reject the application. So let's talk about, if we take the latest 5 case laws from the federal court, which is coming right now on the startup visa, these are the common grounds of rejections that we see. You see that on your screen. I've put some of them synopsis there. So the primary basis is that we see is the refusal happening is under section 89 of the reg. What we see is that that basically is the decision that it looks like an artificial business. It does not look like an qualifying business. It's an artificial transaction. That's what the visa officers are finding, which in very simple terms mean that they do not believe that the applicant is committed to carry their intended startup visa business in Canada. There is a lack of evidence for a visa officer to determine that they are taking steps or they are committing to continue to do this business in Canada, or the evidence was not given to them by the designated entity when they submitted their due diligence that they have done active screening to figure out that the applicant knows what they'll be doing in Canada, how they will be launching their business in Canada. There could be unrealistic financial modeling. There could be failure to show that how the concept has been validated by these founders. Were they prepared to see that, were they ready to launch this business in Canada? So these are the genuine overall grounds we are finding in the rejection case law. So let's take a step here. If these are the grounds on which we are being rejected, we need to take care of them from the get-go. How are we going to do post letter of support phase and after letter of support phase? Before I jump into the process, how are we going to do it right, post, pre, and post letter of support, we need to understand this thing. Just after that, you have submitted your letter of support, you got your letter of support, and after that, you have submitted your PR application. It is not that the visa officer are working in some vacuum and they're looking your client's application. You have no idea what's going to happen. It is not like that. It is not that suddenly on your table, you will have a rejection letter from the visa officer. We all know, and we have seen this in the past, if during the review of the application, visa officer has a concern on the grounds that we just discussed about the validity of the business, concept validation, active management, evidence, I'm not going to repeat all those, they have a duty that they are obligated under the procedural fairness guidelines to notify the applicant that I have these specific concerns and provide the applicant with an opportunity to provide further information and documentation or explanation, like give me an explanation and give me evidence that if I have these concerns, how do you satisfy? So these procedural fairness letters is what that come to you. Now, you need to make sure that as an applicant and as an immigration representative for your applicant, you are ready, that you accept these fairness letters, because as the visa processing is going to take longer time, and which has happened in the start of visa application in this COVID world, they are going to scrutinize what is being done. And to give response to this fairness letter, bring us to the question about letter of support is just a start, because that is the time when we're going to look at it to prove that we need to respond to this letter of fairness. What active steps my client is taking to manage the business, what efforts they are taking to launch this business in Canada. Did they do the validation properly? If not, what are they doing now? Was the due diligence done properly? Were there enough evidence provided to the designated entity that my client knows what they will be doing in Canada? So, if you know this is what is going to happen in the future, let's prepare it for now. Now, how do we prepare for it? How do we prepare that we will have sufficient evidence to address the concerns of the visa officer? How do we prepare that we will not be rejected by the SUV program? See, there could be many ways to do it. Idea over here is to share what we do at IQ and how we think should be done in the right manner, which can avoid all these complications. So let's start now from the very first step in the process, which we call in IQ as the concept validation process. We want to start it right from the very beginning. What do we do at the concept validation stage? At the concept validation stage, when an applicant comes to us, or an expert in immigration like you or on the call come to us and say, hey, my client needs help, we bring that business expertise there. Our positioning is we want to make sure that we define the innovation in the business. Not only that, we also make sure that the client understand how this business should be positioned for the North American launch, provide them that research, provide them that market knowledge. Because focused here is that these entrepreneurs and innovators from outside Canada who are applying under the Startup Visa program, they work towards ensuring that their business concept or their existing business or their innovation is going to be tailored to match the needs of the Canadian economy. It answers the requirement or the intent of the legislation with which the regulation with which the startup visa regulation was actually drafted by the ministry. So to provide them, to make sure they have taken steps, like tomorrow when the fairness letter comes and the questions rises about, did you know what you were doing? Do you know why you were coming to Canada? Did you know how your business is going to be launched? We have done that work right from the get-go. Once the concept validation is done, we have positioned the business, we know how the business would look like, what is the Canadian landscape, what the market looks like, what are the pain points, what are we sorting. Then we come to the second step of preparing these entrepreneurs for the business readiness in Canada. Any one of you, and I think so most of you, who have taken their clients to the startup visa process through the designated entities, who are doing extensive due diligence, they expect your client to know what will be their go-to-market strategy. What is market intelligence? Who are the other players in the market who are doing the same business? How you differentiate? And the most important is, what is your sales and marketing plan? I'll just put an emphasis here. People talk about their sales and marketing plan all the time with us. People come with their grandeur plans. But what you have to make sure is when you make your sales and marketing plan, and in the long run, you're going to be scrutinized about what are you doing in Canada, it has to be a realistic plan. Something that you can implement, something that you feel will give you results, something that you can manage within your budgets. I'll definitely put an emphasis on intellectual property solutions here, because what happens is when you talk about startup visa to your clients, and which will be happening in future if you have not done so, innovation is the key. In legal terms, the most important evidence to prove innovation is, do you have patents? If you pick up any commitment certificate, there is actually a specific section where the designated entity has to let Immigration Canada know that did they do any due diligence on intellectual property? Because intellectual property, which could be a patent, trademark, copyright, that is something distinguishes a business from others. That is what actually proves that there is an innovation. So it is very important for us to work with our clients to figure out, where is that innovation, how to protect that innovation, which is the right IP solution, how to protect, and is that solution owned by the Canadian company, or is it owned by, say, the individual? how the licensing is going to be, how the Canadian company is going to use that IP solution. Once that aspect is done, then another important aspect we need to talk to our client is corporate structuring. We all know the basic requirement to start a visa is that each applicant should hold 10% of the voting rights, and together they should hold majority. But the corporate structuring doesn't end there. It's a complicated process because if you look at the corporate law, along with the shareholding also comes the responsibility, the liability to run the business. These are very important topics that we need to talk to the clients at the get-go. Start with the right corporate structuring, IP solution, get them the competitive landscape, sales and marketing plan. Once that is done, then comes the very important step, which we all talk about and we all know about, navigating the right designated entity and navigating their screening process, leading to the letter of support. Here, the most important component here is which designated entity we are going to. So our job at IQ is to help our client find the right designated entity based on their need. If you're a seed stage company, you have no idea, your business is new, you're evolving, maybe incubator is the right way to go. If you're a growth stage business and you think that you need some investment, but you need hands-off approach, maybe angel investors is the way to go. So the important part is, first, we figure out which is the right designated entity, depending on the need of the client. And the second most important thing that we figure out is this the right designated entity for our client? Because as much as I just discussed that the visa officer is going to scrutinize that what an applicant's intention and bona fide is, they're also going to scrutinize, did the designated entity do the right thing? So if I know in there that the designated entity is going to cut corners, I would not go there. I'd rather take my client to a designated entity which are going to do the thorough due diligence so that we get the opportunity to provide them the thorough due diligence that this is why we are moving to Canada. This is how we're going to launch the business. Now I want to put a very important point here, and there is quite a bit of thing. People sometimes think, oh, I got the letter of support, designated entity gave me the letter of support, everything is done. That's not the case. Both the entities are being scrutinized here. So it is very important for us to understand that the screening process that the designated entity laid out, which your client went through, was it the industry standard? Was it as per the norms of the startup ecosystem? Did they do enough due diligence? Now, if the designated entity has to do enough due diligence, the second part is they can create the documentation themselves. They might have the best screening process, but onus is on the applicant. Onus is us as the team, as the service providers supporting these applicants to have the right information to provide it to the designated entities so that they can do due diligence. They can do proper screening. So it's a quid pro quo. Whether you have the right documentation, whether the designated entity is doing, it goes hand in hand. Your applicant should have right documents. They have thorough concept validation done. They have proved their documents are there, which prove their readiness for Canada, so that the due diligence is done properly by the designated entity, because in the end, all this is going to be scrutinized by a visa officer who needs to understand industry norms were followed, due diligence was done, client knows what they are doing in Canada, they know how to launch their business in Canada, they know exactly why they are moving to Canada. So again, both how you prepare clients and which is the right designated entity is all important. All the practitioners on the call, I would request you to definitely look at section 98.8 of the reg, which actually talks about how a visa officer is going to scrutinize the designated entity. So which also makes it clear, letter of support does not guarantee PR. It only qualifies you for PR. Now, we talked about how to go to the designated entity, get your letter of support, do it properly. This brings us to the fourth phase where IQ helps its clients very clearly is guide to launch and grow your startup. Now, post letter of support, and I'm just repeating myself here, we know that the visa officers are looking at what have you done to launch the business? And as the time increases between the submission of the application and PR is coming, this component is becoming more and more important. What we want to do at this stage is we know our founders are committed. We know they want to launch their business in Canada, but entering a new country and expecting them to suddenly launch their business and get everything done is a little bit, unrealistic. So definitely we have designated entities who are bringing all the support. We just want to emphasize or amplify the support which is required by these founders. Our hope here is to give them support, guidance, and whatever they need under the sun to launch their startup, grow their startup, optimize their operations in Canada. They need partnerships guide them, which is the right organization to go, how to approach them, how these channel partners can help you to get the first traction, get your initial clients in Canada. And most importantly, since we have worked for them from the beginning to figure out what their sales and marketing strategy would be, we actually want to work with them to help them sort out how they're going to implement the sales and marketing. Now, what will be the right way to approach potential client, how to get them to use their software or their product or their services. So all in all, a comprehensive approach to make sure not only they do the things right from the start, they do their validation, they ensure their business is ready for Canada, they prepare well, they provide enough documentation to the designated entity that they are ready, they are the right candidate for startup visa process, and then help them navigate through the startup visa process, help them if there is a fairness letters, get them prepared how what evidence should be there so that they are working and at the same time collecting those evidence to support that yes, they have the intention to launch this business in Canada. They are taking active steps on managing this business in Canada so that these companies can grow and we fulfill the intent of the program. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that, Upasana. This has been very, very helpful information about the startup visa, and you can't imagine how many questions we receive about it on a daily basis. So it's great to have the opportunity of having you here to reply to them. So I'm really happy about the content. Thank you so much for sharing.
My pleasure. My pleasure. Thank you.
I have a few questions, Upasana. That I want to do myself because some of them I've been getting it from clients or from partners. So you were mentioning that there is the concept stage, then comes the letter of support, and then comes the PR. I would like to know what usually happens between the letter of support and the PR. Since that's just the starting point, does the applicant get a work permit? Do they have to be in Canada? How long does it take? So those details, I would like to know a little bit more about that.
Sure. Again, the caveat, I'm not an immigration lawyer on this call, and I know people know. So, but what I can see from my experience is this is that. Mm-hmm. So under the legislation right now, the work permit is optional. It is not mandatory. But what we have seen the trend is because as the processing time is increasing, the applicants themselves, they don't want to wait for 2 years in their home country. And they should not, because here when they're making a business plan and they're convincing the designated entity, Canada is the right market for my product. I need to enter Canada now. I need to launch this business in Canada now. And then for 2 years, you don't do anything. That undermines your entire intent itself. But again, it is not mandatory under the law. But a practice, what we are saying is that people are coming to Canada under work permit. So there are a lot of people. So after they submit their PR application, they got their letter of support within a month or 2 months because it's valid till it's for 6 months letter of support. So your immigration practitioner would apply your application within that time frame. After that, people are entering Canada on the work permit stage. Once they are here on the work permit stage, or even if they're not here on the work permit stage, they are still staying in their home country, they continue to have this onus of launching this business in Canada. Got it? Because as I just said in my presentation, that when the visa officer is reviewing your application and they are looking at, is this an eligible business? What they're looking at is an essential operations of this business taking place in Canada? Are you actively managing this business in Canada? So if these are the factors they are looking at and you are here under Startup Visa program, then you need to take steps to launch that business. Now, again, I will just add to it. Many times people ask me, what steps do I need to take? What do I need to do? It's not rocket science. Just go pick up your business plan. That's why you need someone right to prepare that business plan with you so that they make you understand what you're writing in that business plan, because you have the onus to implement that business plan. You should know what you're putting at, what you'll be doing for marketing. If it's a tech company, what are you going to do? Technology development. what kind of organizations you are connecting to launch your business in Canada. All that has to be combined. So we, all of us in our life have done a job, have done a business. Am I right? So whatever you think are the normal steps in the regular process to launch the business, the applicant have onus to show to the government, yes, they are taking that steps. And if they are taking that step, that automatically goes to prove that they have the intention and commitment to launch this business in Canada. They are not doing an artificial transaction for the purposes of getting the PR.
Okay. That is very, very clear, Upasana. Thank you for sharing. I wanted to take this opportunity to also clarify the scope of work of IQ Canada versus the scope of work of Journey. So in Journey, we do not help to get the letter of support. We only support our clients and partners by preparing the documents that usually designated organizations are requesting. So I want to take this opportunity to ask Upasana to share at what point do you need a business plan and a pitch deck, which is what Journey does.
Sure. A very, very good question. So I would say the first step is you need to understand what you want to do in Canada. Then only what is a business plan? You're putting in writing what you want to do in Canada. Am I right? In a business plan, typically, Marinella, correct me if I'm wrong, you touch upon the competition landscape, marketing and business plan. You're writing the thought process of the applicant or the entrepreneur who is bringing their business to Canada. So the concept validation stage is where we work with them to figure out how they're going to position their business in Canada. What do they want to do? How they want to do this thing. I'll just take an example here to explain the concept validation stage. We were dealing with a company based out of Southeast Asia, and they had an amazing technology, I would say AI-based technology, which they could onboard into any security camera and make it AI enabled. They had combined that technology with the PayPal and Stripe kind of a system, and they were using it at gas stations in their home country. So when they came to us, the companies in the market making revenue, great business, they want to make sure, can they do this business in Canada? So we did some market research for them and figured out what will be the right way to launch this business in Canada. The research came back and our analysis was that the gas stations in Canada are owned by multi-billion-dollar companies like Shell, by Petro-Canada. Selling an app to these organizations is a multi-year project. And by the time they're going to reach to the CEO to make the pitch, the technology might be obsolete. So look at the gap in the Canadian market where this technology could be adapted. So in the concept validation stage, we did the further research and figured out, let's take them to small to mid-sized parking lots because the parking is still not automated. We all need parking. We live in downtown Toronto, Montreal, Vancouver. We all go to these parking lots and there is a booth, small parking lot. You go minus 20, you're shivering and you pay them flat $20. Who cares about the change because you need parking spot at that time. All right. But if they are, imagine your car goes in, the camera takes a picture, app pops up and tell you, hey, there's a parking spot available in B2. You pay with your app and you leave. So we thought we got an amazing idea with them. The founders liked it. We did an amazing job. So that was the concept validation. Then we thought, okay, now work on their readiness for Canada. So we went out and did a survey or a little bit more information about who's going to adapt this technology. We thought we had a winner, but when we heard from the parking lot owners, their idea was like, why should I spend money on this app? Am I right? People need parking. I don't have money to put the meter, but if you are in downtown Toronto, instead of getting a ticket or being your car towed, whether I have a smart app or not, you're going to park the car and you're going to pay me. What is the incentive I have? So that is when we say go-to-market strategy that we need to figure out what are they going to do. So in that case, we realized that if we open up a source of revenue for these parking lot owners, which were not there before, that might incentivize for them to take this app. So we created an idea of hyper marketing loop. You all have thought about that Groupons coming to you. So idea was that if I am parking my car in this parking lot, I get a coupon from a nearby restaurant or a coffee shop or flowers. Come take flowers for your wife. I'll give you $5 off. Every time a sales happen, a percentage goes to the parking lot owner, and they didn't have access to this revenue before. So answering your question, after the concept validation, after we know the readiness, we have actually scoped out what the competition is going to be looking like. You know what you're doing. That's when you need a business plan, because this is the research. This is the work, what is going to go in writing now. That is when it comes. So before concept validation, readiness of Canada, pitch deck and business plan, Then we start preparing these founders about pitch coaching, how to presenting yourself and your company is an art. Everybody doesn't have it. You might be a great entrepreneur, but you still need to know what to tell you're doing in the business. Am I right? How to
Correct.
convince a designated entity that you know what you're doing. So it is in these phases where the pitch deck and the business plan come. Then we take those pitch decks and business plan, prepare them to go through the various steps of the designated entities, and give them enough for due diligence. And Mariana, I want to make sure people understand. The due diligence packages are much more than pitch deck, business plan, and the application for the designated entity. They need to have an evidence of whatever you're claiming in your business plan and pitch deck, you know what you're doing, and there is an evidence
Correct.
supporting it. Otherwise, it's just fake claims there.
Definitely. You have clarified every question that I had regarding that. So there's market research, there's strategy, there's concept validation, and it's basically trying to bring that idea to be really feasible in Canada, because it's not the same in another country than being here in Canada. And that brings me to a very important question, Upasana. So you've been talking about different founders or different team of founders that have an idea abroad. How do you tackle people who do not have an idea?
Mm-hmm. So that I've said that people usually don't think they have an idea, but they have a thought. Am I right? You talk to anyone, when the moment they are thinking about startup visa, I see people move from their regular hat of being an employee or a C-level executive to an entrepreneur mode. Am I right? So in the sense, they might not know, Marinala, what they should be doing. They might not know how to implement it, but they have a thought why they want to move to Canada. They're not just in a vacuum. And if sometimes they're in a vacuum, it is our job to brainstorm with them to figure out, hey, what you have done in your life? What do you think you would like to do? Because in the end, we want them to launch this business. We want them to work on this business. We want them to be a successful entrepreneur. So we need to understand their skills, their background, their experiences, and build up on that what their thought process is and how that thought process is going to turn into a very viable and a feasible business with the market validation done. Another very important thing is if some people come to us with an idea, we make sure that we work with them to get the validation in their home country. It's very important. Many times applicants would say, why? I have a pitch deck, get me a letter of support. Pick up the case law. Look at Quan. Look at Nguyen versus the case law Nguyen in Canada. The whole reason was they had a great idea. They wanted to do, the market was predominantly Vietnam. The visa officer was like, why didn't you launch this business in the home country first? You know, how does it make sense that you want to do this business? You have all the idea of how the marketplace in your home country, but you first want to launch the business in Canada. So we work with these founders to get that grounding there. Am I right? In the end, what smells like, I would say, holiday season coming, what smells like a holiday cake is a holiday cake. Okay, immigration is a matter of common sense. What you're doing is not making sense to yourself and you're not convinced, you cannot convince a visa officer. It's simple as that.
Correct. So this is a very important point here, because there's a lot of people asking, do you give the applicant the idea? And it's not necessarily that. I mean, the idea must, it's always coming from the applicant, from the founder. You are providing, let's say, a coaching and making sure that they're considering the fact that they're entering the Canadian market, and giving them that business support before the legal matters. So this is very important.
It is important.
Very, very important point.
Because giving them an idea, you're undermining the legislation itself. So I'll be very wary of all the people who are making claims about pre-approved ideas. That is what not startup visa is all about. You know, you're already starting the process with a big red flag there.
Exactly. And that's a great point to touch on, because we get a lot of questions regarding that. Before we move forward with a few other questions that we have received, I wanted to quickly go over the business plans and the other services that we provide at Journey, to let people know how we support the process as well. So let me go to the slide where I'm talking about, where I'm going to see the startup visa business plan. So as Upasana was mentioning, in order to get the letter of support, each designated organization has developed a set of requirements. Aside from the due diligence, they are usually requesting a business plan and or a pitch deck, and sometimes people go further to provide a financial model. So those are the documents that Journey prepares. And I want to be clear again, Journey does not help with getting the letter of support. We only support the founder, the applicant, the immigration consultant, or the immigration lawyer to prepare those documents for them to be attractive for that designated organization to provide the letter of support. But we do not help in that process. We only prepare the business critical documents. So we have nothing to do with the legal process at all. We are developers of documents to make it possible for that founder to apply with a designated organization. So I want to be very clear about that. So within the Startup Visa business plan, we talk about everything regarding industry analysis, market analysis, the marketing plan, the personnel plan, and we also include financial projections. As I said, there are some designated organizations that will also ask for a pitch deck. So the pitch deck is basically a summarized version of what you have in your business plan, and it's usually 15 to 20 slides with the same information that you have in your business plan, but a shorter version. So and this applies for investors in general or designated organizations. They want to be able to see the pitch deck and understand exactly what you are aiming for, what are you trying to solve, and what is the solution that you're proposing with your startup. So that's where we also help. We make sure that the pitch deck is presented in a very attractive manner, that it has all the components that it should have, and that it entices the audience that you're wanting to target, which in this case is going to be the designated organizations. So that's how we help. For some startups that do have let's say pre-revenue abroad, we also provide a financial model. So the financial model is a dynamic Excel sheet where you can analyze different scenarios for the business itself. And it's a tool that you would be using not only to present yourself to designated organizations, but also further along in your business by let's say adjusting some of the assumptions or variables that you originally thought were going to be feasible. So you can use this tool to evaluate the different outcomes of various scenarios that you have. So that is another document that we help with. And usually for the different designated organizations, we have different packages already set up. Once you've decided what or which is that designated organization that you are wanting to apply towards. Like I said, some of them will ask for the full format business plan in Word. Some of them will ask only for the pitch deck. And again, like Upasana said, this has nothing to do with the due diligence documents, that those must be submitted according to what the designated organization requests. So I just wanted to explain a little bit about the services that we provide. We provide these services to immigration consultants, to immigration lawyers, to end clients as well. If you need a full support from A to Z, IQ Canada is the way to go. So currently what we do is that we are offering the services to IQ Canada of developing the business plan, and from there, Upasana's team is helping you from A to Z. So I just want to make that very clear to explain the scope of work of what each of our companies provide. Okay.
Sure. I'll just add here, Marinella. So I think so the predominantly the audience here are immigration consultants, lawyer. Consider us that you're experts in immigration, you know everything. But when it comes to startup visa, there are two components: business, immigration. What we as a team bring is the expertise in business. And in that business, there is a component of corporate law, intellectual property law. We bring those services to our partner law firms and the business services ourselves for concept validation, readiness, helping launch the business. So what we want to do is make a formidable team so that the applicant gets the best services together. And we all work with one single end goal: get the applicants their permanent residency, make a business which could be launched in Canada, which would be a success, so that we follow what was the intent of the program. So take us as your business consultants who know where you are experts in immigration. We bring the business services expertise. So it's a very strong business immigration file. We are your support team. We are your back team. We are not competing here with services. We are making a strong complementary service package here.
Wonderful. So I got a question from Rana Ayash saying that what is the role of IQ during the process? So if you can tell us a little bit, Upasana, how do you partner with immigration consultants and lawyers to support them? And you can talk briefly about that.
Sure. So typically what happens is that in a daily grind, when you get an applicant and they say, hey, I want to apply for startup visa. And you then start scrambling, okay, they need startup visa. I know the first step is that my client needs to get a letter of support. Stop there, relax. You don't have to worry. Whatever under the sun you need in terms of professional services, business services, legal services, other than immigration services, we bring that to the table. We tell you guys, all the immigration lawyers and consultants, you focus on what you know the best, immigration. We will coordinate with you wherever we need your immigration expertise. We're going to prick your brain, fixing your client's CV, getting their profiles right. But whatever else they need to get this letter of support, launch their business in Canada, get their validation right, understand how they will launch this business in Canada, steps that would be involved, looking at the competitive landscape, securing their innovation in intellectual property. We bring in all those services aside so that it becomes a strong file. And I'm just repeating what I said before is whatever they need in business services, corporate services, intellectual property law services, employment law services, we bring that to our partner law firms. All our business services are in-house. We partner with Journey to get those research and the ideas when they have been done to be drafted into a pitch deck, into a business plan. We all collaborated with you. So while you focus on the best interest of your client, putting a very strong application together, we get your letter of support. Our niche is that we don't stop at the letter of support. And that's why we have this webinar, because letter of support is a start of the process. Post letter of support, we help your clients through our venture studio, what they need to launch this business in Canada, how they're going to implement their marketing. Manila team would have put a beautiful marketing plan. Somebody needs to execute that. How they're going to get their first clients, where they're going to go, send an email to get a channel partner. Founders are ready to send the emails. They're ready to work. They just need to know, whom should I contact first? So what our job is that till they get their permanent residency, you should have a strong position so that instead of waiting for the fairness letter, you can tell IRCC, hey, this is what my client is doing. What you need to put and what they need to do, we provide the support to you and your clients so that this business is launched. They do active management and you don't end up in federal court explaining, was a qualifying business there? Was your client actually playing an active role in managing this business? What was their intention? We make sure that they take steps that prove that they have intention to run this business in Canada. So that's what we bring. We collaborate with you every step of the way to make it happen.
Thank you, Upasana. So I have a question that says, how do Journey and IQ Canada complement each other? At what stage should one approach IQ Canada and Journey? So currently we are providing business plans to IQ Canada for their full process. I would say that if you are a consultant or a lawyer that you already have experience in the startup visa and you have everything done by yourself, etc., Journey can provide the services of business plans and pitch decks directly to you. If you feel that you need support in all the stages that Upasana has been mentioning before the letter of support, after the letter of support, you may want to reach out to IQ Canada as well. But IQ Canada is one of our partners, but we also work directly with many consultants and lawyers providing the business plan and the pitch deck, depending on the designated organization. So if you already master this process that Upasana has been explaining, we also provide services directly. If you feel that you need help, then you can contact Upasana directly, and we're going to include her information within the chat as well so that you can do that. Let me try to get a few other questions in. What type of business defines innovative? Carl Wolfe.
Oh, innovation? That's a good question. Innovation is a very subjective term, Carl. One thing is for sure, innovation does not mean uniqueness. It's not just that what you're doing, because, for example, many SaaS platform, the market is saturated. The innovation, as long as for us, is that it could be done, that there is some uniqueness, what you're doing is different from others. And that is the uniqueness which will help you to get the traction, or you'll be able to break into the market if it is the market is crowded. If the market is not crowded and you're bringing something new, innovation is self-explanatory. So innovation could be anywhere from food, you're making some different kind of food, to SaaS-based technology platform, to manufacturing. It's a very different depending on which industry sector you are, what you're doing, what segment it is. It's a way of defining what is innovative. Again, it's an art, it's a subjective terminology, but it is not rocket science. So if you're going to come and tell your client is going to come, hey, I want to open up a franchise of a dollar store, you and I know it's not innovative, it's a pretty regular business, so are the gas stations. But your client is going to come and say, hey, I'm going to open up a dollar store where I'm going to tell the story of where the product is coming from, and I also want to make sure that they know what are the chemical ingredients. If it has a lower inexpensive thing, still has thing, you're already adding innovation. So it's a pretty subjective concept. It could be totally industry agnostic. You can have innovation in a very crowded space. When I say crowded space, like a lot of other people are doing the same thing. Innovation does not mean that what you're doing, nobody has else done it. It is a way of defining it.
Okay.
And that's what we do very well.
Thank you, Pasana. I have a question here, a little bit more towards Journey. Do we have a connection with incubators? So we don't have connections, let's say. We do know who are the contacts in some of the designated organizations. So sometimes what we do is that we just make an introduction so that you can ask them all the questions that you have and see if they're the right designated organization for you. So there is no partnerships, I would say, but it's we just make introductions to some guests that we have had in our webinars. When somebody's asking about the fees by Journey, I was mentioning our startup visa. It's 3,200 Canadian dollars plus tax. That's for the business plan. We also have our fees for the pitch deck. It's 2,600 and 5,000 for the financial model. So again, we focus on providing those three services, but we do not have an overall service to get the letter of support and everything that Upasana has shared here. So you can reach out to her directly for that. Will it be possible to introduce some reliable incubators with their field of activities? Yes, thank you, Emily. Yes, we can simply introduce you by email. That's an option. Or if you need the services, the more deeper scope services that IQ Canada offers, you can reach out to Upasana so that you also make sure that you are applying to the correct designated organization. As Upasana was mentioning, there are different types of innovations, and I'm sure, Upasana, and you can correct me here, that each designated organization is looking for different types of innovations. Some are looking for technology, some are looking for any industry. So they have a different requirements.
Absolutely, you're right. Absolutely right, you're Marinella, on that. So every designated organization, they have their own mandate. Most of them are sector agnostic. They will take an application as long as it makes sense. But every designated organization has their own criteria, what they want to look for the screening process, what they're expecting in due diligence. So it is very important to know what your client has, which screening process is going to fit their bill. So for example, there's some designated organizations which are going to do 8 months of bootcamp program. Now, an entrepreneur who's already has a turnover of $1 million doesn't need to do that 8 months of bootcamp program, somebody teaching them how to run a business. They rather need help with someone who can tell them, hey, these are the organizations which are available in Canada. You're a growth stage business. Reach out to this organization. So what is important is that we understand what a designated entity is offering, what is the need of our client, which stage is their business, what they need to do. Is it a seed stage business? Is it an idea stage business? Is it a growth stage business? Figuring out their need, matching with the offering of the designated entity, that is the right way to choose the designated entity for your client. Most importantly, you also need to make sure you're choosing a designated entity whose screening process are following the industry norms, because again, letter of support is not an end, it's a means. In the end, if the designated entity did not do a good job, which most of them they do, if they didn't do a good job in convincing the immigration officer or a visa officer that they did the proper due diligence, the person at loss is your client.
Thank you, Upasana. Stella Toyin has a great question. What happens when an applicant comes in on a work permit status, initiates the steps to launch the business or even probably get it running, and then the PR application gets rejected?
Good question. It's as subjective as that. If there is a rejection, and you all have faced rejections as immigration lawyers in visitor visa application, in work permit application, what do? You respond to it. And there are various avenues. It could be judicial review, federal court. But what response is going to get you a result? The result is putting that evidence to convince that the decision which the IO or the visa officer has made, they overlooked these evidences. See, my client did the work. Okay, they did the work, but you need to have cogent evidence. Just putting a letter is, my client reached out to 4 people, they did the tech development, it's not going to help. You need cogent evidence. What did they do? So if your client has done the work and they still get rejected, then the idea would be to appeal the decision. And when you appeal the decision or have asked for reconsideration of the decision, give the evidence on the grounds on which it was rejected. That's simple advocacy. And all the immigration consultant, expert immigration consultants attending the seminar today, or the lawyers attending the seminars today, this is what you all do. Am I right? Our job here is to support you, that to give this evidence, help your client. Yes, we did the work. When they were doing the work, guide them. Hey, if you're sending this email, save this email, or make sure you have this email as a track record, because these 5 steps shows that you're implementing your marketing plan. And then have that evidence available to you as a part of your submission. What we all do best is advocacy on behalf of our clients. So to answer your question, do a strong advocacy with the legitimate, strong evidence proving your point. That's the best we can do here.
Great. So it's all about evidence for the PR. There's a great question that is about how much time does it take to letter of support, work permit, and PR. Neil Diamond from IQ Canada helped us answer. So letter of support can take 3 to 6 months. Work permit possibly another 3 months after the letter of support. And then the PR comes with 12 to 18 months.
Again, these are the statistics. What Neil is mentioning is absolutely correct. What we see on the visa office, on the Immigration Canada website, but our experience has been like our 3 clients just got their work permit in 3 weeks from Vietnam.
Wow,
right?
That's fast.
From Dubai, they applied through, they got it in 4 weeks, but some of our clients are in India right now. The processing time is 35 weeks. Am I right? So it depends on visa post to visa post, what is happening. And because of COVID, there is some uncertainties here. So we all know that we can make a claim about the time of processing, but in the end, nobody has a connection in Immigration Canada to get it processed fast. They take their due diligence, they take their time, but the processing times are all over the place. It mainly depends on where are you applying it from.
Okay.
But otherwise,
Great.
what Neil told is what you have on their website, and that is the most important source of information, to go to the IRCC website and get those timelines.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Upasana. So we're wrapping up here because it's already 4 minutes past 12. So I want to ask Upasana one last question. The questions that have been sent that have not been answered, we can answer those by email, or we will provide Upasana's information so that you can reach out to her as well. Or if it's a question for Journey, feel free to send us an email from the emails that we've sent the invitations for the webinar for. So Upasana, one last question. Can you give recommendations to immigration consultants, lawyers, and applicants before applying to the Canada Startup Visa Program? What is your main recommendation?
My main recommendation is one and only. You're applying under a business immigration program. Don't forget that. And in Canada, there is no passive immigration, there is no passive investment. If you are planning to come under this program, please make sure you're ready to run this business in Canada. That is the intention you will be scrutinized at. And if you're ready to do that, immigration, the permanent residency is yours. It is not rocket science. If we fulfill the intent for what the program has been made, please follow that. Anybody who tells you other way around is doing a disservice to you. You're smart enough to understand what you're doing, what you're entering into. Follow the requirement of the program so you'll get permanent residency. You think you're going to cut the corners, immigration knows everything.
Mhm. Wonderful. Great advice, Upasana. Thank you so much for that. Thank you everybody for being here. Thank you, Upasana, for being here with us. You have clarified a lot of different questions that I know many of the consultants, lawyers, and end clients had out there. So we really, really appreciate your support. We will be sending, thank you, Upasana. We will be sending you the recording. It's going to be automatic from the Livestorm platform so that you can check any details that Upasana was mentioning throughout the webinar. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for being here. Thank you, Upasana. Thank you to our marketing team. And as we said, if you need support from A to Z, reach out to Upasana. If you already have the preparation of all the process that Upasana was mentioning, reach out to us for the business plan and the pitch deck. See you again soon. Go ahead, Upasana.
Thank you so much, Journey, and thank you so much to the 150, 200 participants who joined with us. It shows that there is a significant interest in the program. We are here to help. We are here to support. Sorry, we couldn't take every question which was being asked, but we are here to answer the question because for every right step, the first step is getting the right information. And you all being here shows that you want the right information. And Journey team, IQ team is here to support you with it. We are complementing your services. We want to make sure you are successful and your client is successful in getting the permanent residency. We are all a team together in this.
Wonderful. Thank you, Upasana. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.